All right, guys, welcome back to episode 5. We're going to be talking about prop firms, which I recommend, how do they work versus live capital. So, first of all, what's a prop firm? A prop firm, think of it as a company that gives traders access to bigger capital. So they can prove, think of it like a test, for example, right? So you buy a specific challenge depending on the firm, depending on the size account, it depends on the price. So think of it, you buy one, you prove that you know how to trade, that you actually are, you know, a good trader. So they give you a test. Think of it like a test. They give you like a test. So once you pass that test, you officially become funded and then you can start making real money. So let me just go more in detail. For example, let's start with this one, right? So this is lucid trading. This is a very good beginner friendly prop firm. It's very cheap compared to the others. So let's go ahead and start off with the most common prop firm challenge. So every single prop firm has 25, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500, well, like etc. Right? So I think the most that I've seen is 300,000. But it's not like they don't give you the 300,000. So let me go ahead and explain. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. This is the one I use. It's a very good one. So price, it depends. Sometimes they have promos, but typically around 70 to 90, 70 to $100 basically. Think of it like that. Okay. So how does it work? Let's talk about evaluations versus sim funded. Evaluation is the test that I was mentioning about. So for example, here you click, you see where it says profit target 3,000, max loss limit 2,000. So basically what you have to do is make $3,000 on this account, and once you make those $3,000, you're funded. Like you passed the test. And the max loss limit is you cannot lose 2,000. So you got to make 3,000 without losing 2,000. Okay? That's basically it. However, depending on the firm, which I'm going to be talking about this one, it has a 50% consistency rule. Example, 3,000. What's 50% of that? 1,500. So you can only make max 1,500 a day. So it would take you a minimum of 2 days to pass this account. So for example, let's say Monday you make 1.5, Tuesday you make 1.5. There, you pass. However, it doesn't mean you have to make 1.5. You can make 500 and then 500 and then 500, 500 and reach 3,000. Or you could do 1,000 and 1,000 and 1,000, you know? But it's just the max you can make is 1,500. You could make more, but if you make more, you're going to have to reach more than 3,000. So maybe 1,550, maybe, it's really hard to do an exact number. So if it's like 1,550 or so, they won't really care. I mean, it's only $50 above, so it's okay. But anything more than 100, like 1.6 and above, that's whenever it'll start, affecting. Okay. So we talked about the consistency rule, which is 50%. We talked about the profit target and we talked about the drawdown. Now, this specific account has end of day drawdown. What does that mean? It means, think of it like this. Let's say you're up $1,000, right? So your account goes from 50,000 to 51,000. And once, assuming you don't take profits at 1,000, right? If it goes back down to your entry and it stops you out, your account is basically you didn't make anything nor lose anything. You didn't lose anything at all. No drawdown, etc. Drawdown. What I mean by drawdown is just the max loss limit. That's what every trader calls drawdown. Drawdown type. You see where it says drawdown. So it goes back to your entry. It stops you out. Like assuming you put break even, it stops you out. The account was basically like brand new. Okay. However, there's other prop firms that have intraday drawdown. What does that mean? It means that if you're up 1,000 And when you get stopped at break even, like at your entry, that means that you technically didn't lose anything, like in terms of like your account balance. Like it would be 50,000, you're up at 51, it goes back down to 50K, okay? You know. However, your drawdown, let's say for example the $2,000 drawdown, if you were up 1,000 and you go back to your entry, you lost $1,000 worth of drawdown. Why? Because you were up 1,000, you didn't take it. That's why I really, 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 really like end of day drawdown. It's such a game changer. Okay, so up next, max size. So depending on the account, is how many contracts you can size. 4 minis or 40 micros. That's the max. It's not saying you have to do it. It's just the max that you can do. You can do 1 mini, 1 micro. It doesn't matter as long as it's not more. Because if you do, it's first of all, it's not even gonna put you in. It's gonna deny. It's gonna reject your order. Okay. So this one has no activation fee. Activation fee means whenever you pass the funded account, for example, you pay for the evaluation, let's say $100, and then once you pass, you had to pay a fee, like another 100. But this one doesn't have an activation fee, so that's basically it. It's a fee after passing. Daily loss limit. Daily loss limit means, I mean, what it sounds like. You can only lose this amount a day. It doesn't have any, so you can lose whatever. You can lose the entire account if in one day if you don't be careful. Now, this is the evaluation rules. Let's talk about the funded rules. The max limit. Sorry, the max loss limit is still 2,000. Size is still 40 micros or 4 minis. However, the evaluation versus the sim funded account is that the funded doesn't have any consistency rules, so you can make whatever you like. 5,000 in one single day, 2,000 in one single day, um, probably even 10,000 in one single day. However, there is a catch. First of all, you have to trade for 5 days till payout, and they have to be a minimum of $250 if I'm correct. And then after that, once you reach, a certain amount, you can request. So it's 5 days for $250. Those 5 days. After that, you can request a minimum of $500 and a maximum of $2,000 every 5 days. Payout to live right here at the bottom says 5. What does that mean? It means if you give 5 payouts, they will give you a live account. I'm not exactly sure how the live account works with Lucid, but if you're genuinely curious, you can just comment and I'll go ahead and figure that out for you. Okay, let's talk about a different prop firm challenge. It's within Lucid. It's a 50K pro account. For the eval, think of it like this. It's basically like the opposite of the flex, the one we talked about earlier. So on the flex is a 50% consistency rule on the eval, like on the test. On the pro, it doesn't have anything on the eval, on the test. You can pass it within one day and you're good. However, it does have a loss limit of 1,200. So once you lose 1,200, you would have to wait for it to be resetted, like the next session or the next trading day. Okay. Now the funded has a 40% consistency, meaning your max P&L on the day cannot be 40%. Has a 40% consistency rule. Example, let's say you start off at 50,000, right? Let's say you're at 50,200, 52,600, right? So you're up 2,000 in profit, right? So you multiply that, you get the 40% of 2,600, and that's $1,040. So you can only make $1,040 a day if you want to request at 52,600. However, you could make more than that. If you want to request, for example, at 54,000, which a lot of people do, that's around 40% of that is 1.6. So you can make 1.6 a day if you want to request at that. How do you figure it out? You basically get your profits, you times it by 0 point, and then the consistency rule in this case is 40%, and that's 1,040. And it's 3 days till payout. Again, 250 minimum a day, I'm pretty sure. And that's about it. You can investigate these other plans. This is a direct. It skips the test, like the evaluation phase. It skips it completely. That's why it's super expensive. Okay. So let's talk about a different prop firm. I recommend this one. This one's a really good beginner friendly prop firm. If you want to use this prop firm, use code JTNQ. It gives you 50% off for 2 accounts if you're a new user. Now let's go on to a different prop firm. This one. This one's a very good one too. It has multiple good plans. This is the best plan that they have, in my opinion. Actually, it's between these two. For example, this one. Let's talk about this one. This one. Most of these firms are basically the same. 3,000 profit target, 2,000 drawdown. For example, here, evaluation rules. Profit, $3,000. Max drawdown, $2,000. Drawdown mode, end of day, like I like it. Max position, 5 contracts, which means 5 minis or 50 micros. Consistency rule, again, 50%. So you can only make 1.5 max a day to pass the account. So it would take you 2 days. It's basically the same as the one we talked about here. However, this one, whenever you get funded, the drawdown mode is real time, which is what I was talking about earlier. If you're up 1,000, you go back down to your entry. You technically lost 1,000 worth of drawdown. However, I really don't like this type of drawdown. However, this is a daily payout plan. It's called a rapid plan. You can request every single day whatever you want. But first of all, you got to get 2,100. I'm sorry, 2,100 above balance, which means get to 52,100. After that, you can request whatever you like, a minimum of 500. There is no limit on how much you can request here. You can request $5,000 a day, $9,000 a day. However, if you do make $10,000 in one single day, I believe they move you to a live account. So if you want to milk this account as much as possible, make like 9,000 a single day, request it every day. It's easier said than done, of course. It's very easier said than done. Not a lot of people can do this, but if you manage to make $9,000 every single day, you can request $9,000 every day. Like that's insane. Like the potential is crazy. So that's basically it for this one. However, this one, basically the same thing. The only difference is you can only request after 14 days. Also, I forgot to mention, some prop firms do have a profit split, like you see right here, a 90% profit split. So you keep 90% of your profits, depending on the plan. This one, for example, is 80%. Lucid, I'm pretty sure, is 90%. So yeah, this one is like a very beginner friendly also. It's kind of like the live account one. Sorry, not the live account, the daily payout one. However, it's every 2 days with the 80%. And this one you can pass within 1 day. Also, it has two different options, $2,000 max loss or 1.5, which is a bit cheaper. With the code JTNQ, it gives you like around 30 to 40% off. All right, now let's talk about this one. This one is also like the daily payout one. However, the max you can request a day is 2,000, but it's an end of day drawdown. So end of day drawdown is I would say it's worth it because $2,000 a day is still a lot of money. So I would probably go with this one because the end of the day drawdown. That's like literally that's it. The end of the day drawdown for me, it's like such a game changer. However, they do have this for multiple plans. Select plan, right? Which you can select whether you want daily payouts or a weekly payout. You know, obviously, who wouldn't want daily payouts? Lightning funded. That's an instant. Let me show you right here. So growth. You can pass it within 1 day, 35 consistency on sim funded, right? Select plan. Pass the evaluation in 3 days, 40% consistency rule, no consistency in sim funded. Daily or 5 payout. Okay. Lightning funded. Pass evaluation in 3 days, 40% consistency in eval, 20% in sim funded. 5 days till payout. Now, my favorite one is the select plan, of course. It's around $100 with a code, of course. Try code JTNQ, it gives you around 40% off. And the same rules apply. 2,000 drawdown, 3,000 profit target. Now, all of these firms, I believe, is a max of 5 accounts per trader. Now, let's talk about the last one. This one is a firm that a lot of people don't like because of the rules, etc. However, this is the only prop firm that gives you 20 accounts per trader. They have all these type of accounts. And the day trailing drawdown, that's I don't like that. So let's talk about the 50K. Oops. Let's talk about the 50K end of day. All right. So max contracts is 6 minis or 60 micros. Again, profit target is 3,000. Drawdowns 2,000. Daily loss limit is $1,000. However, this one you can have 20 accounts, which means you have the potential to make so much if you pass all 20 and you reach a good amount on all PA. They're called PA. PA is basically like the funded account, not the evaluation, not the test. It's like the funded account. So once you have 20 of them and you make it to like 52,600 minimum, you can request 500 per account. So that's a minimum of, let me see, of $10,000 in like I believe it's 5 days. I believe it's 5 days. So every week you have the potential to make $10,000 a week, basically. The potential with these prop firms are crazy. However, the prop firms are not too expensive. They're like around 100, 150 average. But a lot of people struggle with prop firms. Reason being is because they want to pass the accounts right away. They size super heavy to pass them as soon as possible. Because not a lot of people want to spend time on the evaluation phase. Like, for example, like me, okay, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. The evaluation accounts, since I know how to trade, that I know that I can, make money off this, I really do not want to spend time, proving, testing, doing the test, doing the evaluation phase. So yes, I do size a little heavy on the evals, just to get them over with. However, if you're a new trader and you still want to like, prove to yourself, take your time. There's no rush. Take your time, pass them, and once you're funded, you can start making money after reaching a buffer. It depends on the firm that you choose, right? So that's about it. A lot of people fail these challenges because they want the pass like fast, and I don't blame them. I mean, no one really wants to spend time, making fake money because at the end of the day, this is fake money. All of this is fake money. However, this fake money, well, in the eval is completely fake. Everything's like fake, like it's just fake. However, on the sim funded, on the PA, It's still fake money, but whenever you reach a certain goal, the company sees, make sure that you follow the rules, all that stuff, and they pay you out real money. So all of this is fake. It's basically, think of it like a demo account, but with the potential to make real money. So I don't blame whenever they trying to pass, fast, because I've done it before. We all lost so many accounts within our trading career. So over trading, sizing pretty heavy, all that stuff, over risking. Now, realistically, I don't know if I'm making it sound easier than it actually is, but passing accounts are it's not easy, especially if you're new. So you're going over through your strategies, you don't even know. It's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. Now let's talk about live capital. Live capital is basically, what it sounds like. It's your own money. So your own money, you don't have to follow any rules. It's all like it's all you. However, as a beginner, like if you're a beginner, I wouldn't really recommend it unless you have experience and gotten payouts from prop firms before. So a lot of people get payouts from prop firms and slowly fund their live account, their live capital. So you open an account with a broker, you put your real money in, you can make whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. It's your money. However, like I said, I don't recommend it for a beginner. I would recommend it to someone that's gotten payouts consistently with prop firms, you know. So I mean that's about it. If you have any questions about prop firms or live account, etc., you can go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll go ahead and answer it for you. So by the way, if you want to get any of these accounts, code JTNQ gives you a good discount. Use code JTNQ. All right. Next episode, we're going to be talking about psychology, uh, emotions, all that stuff, more in detail and specific to prop firm challenges. And I'm probably going to go ahead and tell you guys a little bit of my experience with prop firms. I never traded live capital. I'd rather stick with prop firms, and I'll tell you why in the next episode. So, catch you guys later.